sure you shop your exclusive merch. It's hoodie season. Make sure you grab a pair for you and your girl or your guy, and make sure that, you know what I'm saying, you tag Stuck in the Middle when you cop that merch. This is fun. This is going to be a good conversation. I think a conversation that we had to have. But let me get into my guest. I'm here with Lambris. What's up, Lambris? How you doing?
Good. Everything's good. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you for coming on. I know we talked a little bit behind the scenes about what we're going to discuss, but before we get into that conversation, I wanted to, have you introduce yourself to the people, let the people know who you are and what you're doing.
Hi. Well, if you don't know me, I kind of don't know how you don't know me, but anywho, JK. My name is Lambris. I'm originally from Cameroon. I was born and raised there to 2010. Then I moved here when I was 10 years old. Currently, I've just been kind of like, going through like an early midlife crisis.
An early midlife crisis.
Okay, I'm not pushing that. That's why I said early. But yeah, kind of stuck in the never-ending question, which is like, do you want to do what you're passionate about, or do you want to, kind of do you want to contribute to capitalism, which will make, your parents proud, because, as a lot of us, from Cameroon or Africa in general, our parents came all the way over here. Sorry, do I have to get you? Okay. A lot of our parents, they've sacrificed a lot to be here, and it's like they want us to contribute to capitalism and, choose something that doesn't necessarily bring us joy, but, pays the bills. So I'm kind of in that twilight zone, trying to, get the best of both worlds. Don't know how I will, but I will get it.
So, kind of piggybacking off of that conversation, this is a platform that's made for entrepreneurs, innovators, and people of African descent, that is breaking the mold, breaking barriers from the traditional ideas that, some of our African parents may have with us being doctors, lawyers, engineers, and things like that. I mean, I went across your Instagram, for the people that don't know what your Instagram is, share.
XOXO Lammy, it's spelled XOXO, Casa Girl, Lammy. And my name is Lambris, not Lammy. Some people who've never met me think it's Lammy. I'm just like, no, that name is like kind of reserved for people who, know me, so yeah.
But as I was coming across, it's almost like you're an aspiring model. You take a lot of different pictures, and a lot of pictures that I would say are mad fly from a different perspective. So, like I would say, I kind of classify you in that aspiring model. Is that the best way to classify you?
Definitely. Hopefully, we can take away the aspiring within the next year.
Okay. I mean, it looks like you're well on your way.
Yes. Trying to.
But nevertheless, the reason why you're here is because, we've been talking as a team. We have all these different platforms, and I think a conversation that needed to be had was really talking about the LGBTQ plus community, especially those of African descent, because there seems to be a lot of taboo around that. So I kind of, reached out to you. I know you personally. I reached out to you and just said, hey, would you mind coming on and sharing your story? And you was down for the cause,
Definitely. I remember when he called me, because apparently he called me like a week before and I didn't see it. But
yeah, for sure.
we'll keep going with the lines, he says. So he FaceTimed me like on a 3-hour call with Lydia, and when he told me I was literally in bed, I was so ecstatic. I was elated about it. I was already like on board before he even finished, asking, because I kind of feel like all my life I've had to just constantly. One thing I learned early on about coming out is when you come out to one person, it never stops. It's always a never-ending thing. And I always thought, oh my goodness, that's so exhausting. But after a while, you get used to it. Someone asks you the question, be it whether or not they know you. So you're always coming out to people. And by coming out to people, you're also having to explain yourself. And then people who don't know me, or even if you do know me, one of my biggest pet peeves is like reiteration.
Yeah.
Explain myself. I hate explaining myself. I tell you something once, if you don't get it, okay, I'm not explaining it again. But if I have to explain it again, it pisses me off actually. So when I have to explain to people constantly who I am and them not necessarily understanding it or even wanting to understand it, that kind of upsets me. So that's why I was so elated to be on this platform, because this is kind of like an open letter to anyone who has any questions about who I am and who my community is.
Yeah, so, definitely this is an open letter, and hopefully, after this conversation, you can go ahead and send this out to all your friends and family and people that are interested to know and learn more, because I want this to be a learning experience for many of those. So, when I was coming up with the questions for this show, I had to do my own research, because we live in a time now where it's almost like the LGBTQ plus community is like, no, we're fighting for our rights right now. You got to come politically correct. And I'm a baby on this platform. We don't want to get anybody canceled. So like I said, if I say anything, please excuse me. I'm also trying to learn, but also correct me, because this is to be a learning experience. So with one of the first things I saw was, when approaching someone from the LGBTQ plus community, what I tend to see is that there tends to be some confusion, in the sense that some people get that community mixed up with their sexual preference versus having gender identity. So could you really explain to us, do you believe that people confuse the two?
Definitely, both in the heterosexual community and both in the gay community. Preference, not to necessarily get too in detail, because even though people may think we're very together in the gay community, it's very much not the truth. For example, there's a lot of racial injustices going on in our community, and the way I can describe the preference is, typically you have your Caucasian gays who think they're at the top of the food chain for God knows why. They tend to prefer, they only want someone who's masculine, they don't want someone who's feminine, they only want someone who's white, or they'll be like, no fats, no femmes, no Asian. That's like a typical stereotypical phrase that they have. That's not a preference, that's more prejudicial. But anyways, preference, it's more like, I wake up this morning, I decide I want to wear black jeans instead of white jeans. That's preference. Your gender identity is, you wake up this morning and something in you, or force within you that you just can't control, is like, maybe I'm not going to listen to what the television is telling me about me having to like girls, and maybe I probably like guys. To me, that's the difference between preference and the other.
Okay, so when you identify yourself, right, when did you get to that realization of identifying as, I want to say, gay, and then also, what did it have anything? When you were going through that, did you question your gender identity?
Oh, I do, and I did, and I still do. Not necessarily the identity more. Not question the expression, but to backtrack on what you said is, as for kind of knowing when I was gay, it's been from the get-go, ever since I was back in Cameroon. It's been little things, like, for example, looking at, certain guys a certain way that I should not have been looking at, or just fixating on guys more than I should have girls. Because I remember there was this one girl in my class, she was always all up on me, and I just thought it was the cringiest thing ever. And that was way before I had developed a certain trauma that led to me not being so physically attached to people, and me repelling emotions. So that was before that. But back then, she was always so into me, and I always just thought it was the cringiest, weirdest thing. But I started looking at guys, a certain way, and it was weird, because back then I never knew what I was. I never, knew that what I was, the sin according to the Bible. And I never knew that it was, punishable by death or life in prison. I just never knew. I was just doing whatever just felt natural to me. Then when I grew up, and then when I came to America, which I sometimes like to think that me coming to America was kind of God's way of literally saving me, because who I am now, I cannot exist back where I'm from.
So, we'll get into that, but okay. Yeah.
So when I came here, that's when I started, learning more about me. I remember the first person called me gay in eighth grade, and I thought he was calling me a girl because I didn't even know what the term meant at that point. Again, I was just doing whatever felt the most natural to me, and I literally cried that entire day on the bus to school, and I had the worst day in school. And again, I just kind of kept living my life, and I remember at the time that I really accepted it. It wasn't necessarily like I looked at myself in the mirror like, okay, you're gay. It was more like just doing little things that felt natural to me over the course of time. Then after like months or years, I was able to kind of actually tell someone like, oh yeah, I'm gay, or like, oh yeah, I like guys, like, and I never cringed about it. I never felt like I wanted to crawl into a hole after saying it, and my chest not feel like I was going to explode before I was gonna say it. So it was just really just me doing whatever made whatever is inside of me happy. That's what helped me come to terms with who I am today.
A lot of people, based on what you just said, a lot of people outside of the community or even within the LGBTQ plus community can sometimes feel that, it's not a matter of choice that you can be born this way. If you're not comfortable sharing your stance, that's perfectly fine. But what do you believe?
First and foremost, I would like to disclose something that I should have done earlier. My views are not necessarily the views of the entire LGBTQ community. It is the views of a lot of people, just not the entire. So, take it with a grain of salt. But the whole, it's a choice. I remember like back years ago, that would set me off. Like, because it's like, do I wake up choosing to be discriminated against? Do I wake up choosing to get hate crimed against? Do I wake up, choosing to have lawmakers literally tell me that I don't deserve rights? Do I wake up choosing all of these obstacles in life that I have to, go through? Do I willingly wake up and be like, okay, I'm going to make my life as hard as possible? Do I really choose? Do I wake up and choose that?
Why
no,
would you? Yeah.
Exactly. Who in their right mind would? I mean, life is hard enough, but when you add obstacles as such, it makes it damn near impossible. Oh, can I curse you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It makes it damn near impossible for you to even live life. So it's like, I say it's not a choice, and a lot of people in my community say it's not a choice, and whoever says it is a choice, they have gone to conversion therapy, and clearly it has not ended well, which I almost went to, but anyways. It's not a choice because it's really just, for example, you wake up and you're straight, you're doing whatever comes natural to you, is it not?
Right.
Like, I woke up and I just, happen to be gay. I'm doing whatever feels natural to me because I like to call like the entity that's within me kind of like not separate, but I just feel like my purpose of my physical human body is to do whatever my metaphysical body inside me feels happy, and what inside me feels happy is just happens to be liking guys. So I'm just doing whatever it is that makes that individual inside of me happy. So when I wake up in the morning, it's just liking guys is just kind of part of who I am. It's not necessarily something I chose to because I've gone to Catholic school. I am a Catholic and raised in a Catholic home. It's like, of all the sins I could have chosen, why would I have chosen this one? One that could have, maybe potentially gotten me, disowned by my family. So it's kind of like, just why would I do this willingly? Why would I choose it willingly?
Let's talk about that. Like, we are all African born, especially, and this platform has a lot of African viewers. Some that may not truly understand or, kind of throw that towards taboo. Like I said, when we were coming across the panel for this, we were really like sitting down like, okay, who do we actually know that's, gay or bisexual or a lesbian, whatever the case may be, right? To really come together to ask the right series of questions. When you were with your family, right, growing up, once again, you were in Cameroon feeling this way, and then you had to come to America. What challenges or obstacles did you face, one, coming across your family, telling your family? Did they already know? Did they sense it? Were they open? Like, kind of what was that environment like with your immediate family, not necessarily the outside family, but let's start with your immediate family. What was that experience like?
I feel like if you've known me ever since I was little, or like have at least been around me before I officially came out, you always knew something was not, straight pasta. It was a little curly. um, and it's funny because everyone knew that. I was the only one who didn't seem to necessarily know that. And again, that was because I was really just doing whatever comes natural to me and just really living life, honestly. But when I was little, I had this term like back in educare called, which is a school I went to, called. They used to call me boy gay, and it was pretty much just like a guy who acted like a girl. And I always thought it was like funny, whatever, because I was a bit popular and the top and everything, whatever. So I just let it slide, whatever. So, but when I came over here, that term kind of like morphed into me being gay without necessarily realizing it. And the fucked up part to me is I won't necessarily call any names out, but those who knew that I wasn't straight even before I did were not the most supportive and are not the most supportive. And I can tell, others say that they're trying, but personally, I don't see the progression as being progressive enough, not at least for my take, because I am constantly evolving. And if you evolve, if you're in my life and close, you're my close family, and you see how remarkably happy I have been within these past couple of years because I've accepted who I am, and you can't bring yourself to accept it. One, to me, that's selfish. It's literally not your life. Two, if you cannot bring yourself to accept that, especially if I mean so much to you, supposedly, I say supposedly because if I truly meant so much to you, you wouldn't necessarily, keep second guessing and keep questioning. But moral of what I'm trying to say is certain people knew before I did. And that's cool, It took me a while to get to terms with it. But if you knew, and then when you kind of now know that I'm open about it, and you're still just trying to pretend like it's not real, that's when I go from being understanding to just being pissed off, and I see your mindset as just pure ignorance. And if there's one thing I can do is I can comprehend anything. I can be accepting, or I can be understanding to someone who's slower to pick things up. I can be accepting to someone who wants to be educated. But if you're ignorant about something, personally, I don't do ignorance.
Okay.
So,
were you ever, I guess, outed before that first initial conversation as quote unquote coming out? Did someone out you for already being that prior to you having that opportunity to present it in your own way, and whatever way made you feel comfortable?
personally, I would like to thank God that I was never outed per se. I mean, apart from that little big bully from 8th grade who would like ask me if I was gay, even though I don't think that's outing. But he did do it publicly, so I was just like, yeah. I would like to apologize for people in my community who've been outed, because being every day, well, not every day, but constantly on my Twitter feed, I see people in my community who are saying, "Can you donate to my GoFundMe?" because I've been outed by my family, and they're literally kicking them out. And sometimes it really just like breaks my heart, because it's like their families are literally kicking them out because they chose to have the courage to tell them who they are. But thankfully, no, I was never outed by anyone.
So what sorts of challenges and obstacles did you face? All right, so actually, now let's rewind. So now, you mentioned earlier that your family kind of always maybe saw that, maybe people that were around you kind of sensed it, wasn't really too sure, and maybe were waiting for you to identify that yourself. What was that first initial conversation like with your family or with your friends? And how did you mentioned how you felt afterwards, but like what were, I guess, some of the responses that you got from those family and friends?
There's been two or three like actual like coming out experiences that I remember of, like, it's edged into my memory. The first one was when I told my really good friend at the time, because I had just like moved here from, well, not really. Well, I had moved here from Cameroon, but that was like 2 years, and I was in high school back then. I met this lovely girl named Caitlin. We still keep in touch today. She was one of, to me, she was one of the most genuine friends that I had actually made after, you know, a couple years of me being here.
Mm-hmm.
And I told her outside of her car at our old house. And I, at the time, I couldn't even bring myself to say that I'm gay.
Was she the first person that you told?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I literally, like, I was recording the entire thing, and like I put the phone, then I turned around, then I like just kind of like whispered it, and she was like, "Oh, I've been new. I was just waiting for you to tell me."
Okay.
So she was very, very supportive about it. The second, I mean, apart from that, everyone else that I had met had just kind of picked up the vibe, and I didn't feel the need to tell them.
Mm-hmm.
But the other experience that I just felt very memorable, that I remember to this day, and I hold it so close to my heart, was when I went on a cruise with the Ngenges and the Ngefors. Sorry, the Ngenges and the Defors. They call themselves the Ngefors. So I was just like, okay. Yeah, I went on a cruise with them, and I was actually, I don't know if this is TMI, but I was going to cut off that part of my family because I had a whole plan that I just did not see myself as being accepted into the family. So slowly but surely, I kind of developed a plan, like a year, 2 year long plan, that I would kind of cut everyone out of my life. And they were like a huge chunk that I was going to cut off. In that cruise in 2019, I believe, summer 2019, August, was going to be the last like big family gathering they were going to see me at. So it began in March. Or was it May, that I slowly unfollowed? No, I blocked all of them on Instagram simultaneously at like 3 a.m. with the help of my friend. So they would think I deleted my Instagram. Then the cruise came along, and that's when we were actually talking earlier that I never used to drink like Iron Reflex over here until I met them. Then I started drinking. And we had several drinks that night. That was my second time ever getting really, really drunk. And then I came out to Leone. It was like a room, you know, like the
Comfort.
the cruise
Shout
rooms?
out Comfort.
Yeah.
1994 CEO rep. Yeah.
1994, shop 1994. Very, very comfortable, by the way.
Okay.
But yeah, you know, like the cruise rooms where it's like there's like a bunk bed and there's. Like
I've never been invited, and I have my own beef with them. But on that, but that's another topic.
Anyway, so. But yeah, like in like a cruise, like the cabins, there's like a bunk. Well, if you book a cabin like this, there's like a bunk bed, then there's a bed down here, and a bunk bed, then there's a bed down here. So I remember this very well. Alvin was sleeping right here. Jermaine was sleeping right here. Kelly was sleeping right here, and I guess Leonie was sleeping right here. Or was it Alvin on the side? Either way. So that night, I don't know, I've always felt really, really close to Leonie. So I came out to her thinking that the others were asleep. Then I came out to her and I started crying and like unloading a few of my trauma. And then she was just very, very supportive about it. And Kelly was not fully sleeping because we were disturbing her peace. So she was like, Lambris, I've worked with people like you. I understand it. We all knew that, you know, you were gay. We were just waiting to tell you. And they all just kind of told me, like, you know, they love me and everything. I don't know if Alvin remembers that conversation. The bitch was asleep, I think. I still have personal proof.
Shout out to my anesthesist.
The doctor.
My anesthesist. Shout out to my nurses. Kelly, Jermaine, Big Jerm, what's up?
Every time I ask Alvin how school is, she says it's miserable. But anyways, yeah, no, I remember that night because I was literally like ugly crying, like tears were just streaming down my face with snot all over my nose. And yeah, that was my coming out experience.
I see you remember that visually, and you know, a lot of times when you talk to members within your community as well, they remember a lot of these first. And it sounds like it was like such a relief for you to come out and share a lot of that trauma. What does it mean for you to, you know, kind of, you know, have dispel some of these African myths that, you know, like the family is just gonna throw you outside. You're not really, because some people have gone through that, but for your own family, like you went from a period where you weren't really feeling the love to now where you feel the love within some of your family members. So like, kind of, what was that experience like? How is it bearing all of that and then finally letting it go?
It wasn't necessarily that I wasn't feeling the love. It's just because I had kind of distanced myself because I just, it was at the peak of when, well, not the peak, but it was around the time when, gay people were literally being thrown out of the house left and right. So I was just like, oh my goodness, could that be me? You literally never know who it could be. So I just, for my own safety as a defense mechanism, I just, told myself that they're not going to accept it, so don't even bother. Though I kind of felt like if anyone were to accept it, it would have been Leonie first. That's why I told her first. But at that point, it just, to me, I was just more scared of everything. And then when I ended up telling them, the metaphor that it feels like a weight or like an anchor has been lifted off your chest, I literally just felt like 30 pounds lighter. It's like, when you go to before you go to bed and like you've had a big meal, you feel like, you can be on my 600-pound life, then you wake up the next morning feeling like a, negative 30-pound runway model. That's almost how it felt like. I just felt like I could literally just float and just really be happy from the inside, honestly.
Prior to you coming out, were there any support groups, any mentors or influencers that you looked at, anyone that you relied to for guidance to help you along the journey in coming out?
No, I hate to say, but there wasn't really anyone that I could look to for advice or like look to for guidance. And there really wasn't anyone for the longest time, not until like the past 2 years. So it's kind of like everything that I was doing on my own. It literally, I felt like a newborn baby, but a grown newborn baby, just walking in the world by myself, figuring out a lot of the things. And it was kind of like I was constantly pushing this great wall that could be like the Great Wall of China. I was constantly pushing that wall by myself because I had essentially no support system, even though the love was there. Even though I came out to them and they said they love me and all that stuff, it's just like I'm still having to go through the life by myself. I'm still having to break a lot of these boundaries, a lot of these things by myself. I'm still having to, maneuver through everything by myself. To today, I'm still having to do that, and it was very like saddening, but it also kind of made me who I am in a good and a bad way. In a good way because like it made me a very strong person, but in a bad way, it kind of like, in making me a strong person, I kind of developed like a hyper independence where I feel the need to just do anything and everything by myself, and it kind of made me not necessarily rely in people as much, which is when another trauma kicks in.
Now, have you met any other, either, I'm going to just say gay, either gay or lesbian, people within the community of African descent, and what have your interactions with them been like? Do you find yourself comparing and contrasting your stories and your journeys?
Sadly enough, I haven't met any gay people of African descent now. A lot of the people in my close, like, personal circle are gay, not by intention. I just think it's kind of funny how, like, God and the universe works, where it's like the people that he's brought into my life just happens to be gay, and it's like I find out like months after being friends where they'll just like casually drop it in a conversation, which I love that about, coming out nowadays, where it's like for a lot of people they don't officially have to say I'm gay. It's just like they'll be having a conversation and then they'll be like, oh yeah, there's this guy that I think is cute, and you're like, oh wait, so you're gay or bisexual, But no, I have unfortunately not met anyone like that. However, I'm watching this show called Sex Education. There's this character called Eric, and he's the first, and I want to say the only character on film portrayed as a black gay individual. Exactly. And they just had an episode where he went back to Nigeria with his family. Yeah, and you what? Literally said you put her on to it.
Like, low-key, that's one of probably my, I don't know, he's probably my second favorite character on the show.
Maybe. He's one of my favorite characters of all time because he was one of, if not the most the character that I felt the most represented in television, which is why I've been telling, a lot of people close to me, like, hey, watch this show. Why do I want you to watch this show? Because I don't want to have to explain myself over and over again. This show will do that for you. It will explain this character, which is virtually explaining a lot of who I am. And he went to Africa, and it's like he struggled with the same, things that I've always struggled about, which is like, all right, do you want to pick being happy? Do you want to pick, which is being equated to being gay? Or do you want to pick your family back home, which they're not going to accept you? Even his mom told him, hey, tone the gay down, which is not necessarily something you can do, because by toning the gay down, you turn to repress who you are. And once you repress who you are, that's when the mental illness starts to kick in. But anyways, so she told him about that. And
no, for sure. No, I'm gonna switch gears a little bit.
Yeah.
All right. This might be TMI. I don't know. I don't really know.
If it's sorry to cut you off, if it's TMI, in the words of who I say, my godmother, Naomi Campbell, I would just say I do not want to comment.
Sure. So, are you dating? Are you currently dating? Is your DMs open? And let's start there. Are you dating? Are your DMs open?
Dating? No. DMs open?
Hey, sounds like you're in a situationship.
Not with anyone, just with me personally, because I feel like I am a never-ending, evolving being. Mm-hmm. And just like this year, I was able to publicly announce that I was non-binary, even though knowing it took me a year to, come to that conclusion, which is why I said, when you come out, you're never really done coming out.
Explain to those who don't know it. Non-binary is a big word.
Non-binary. Oh, it is a big word. It was for me too, child. Listen, it was. That's why it took me a year to really come to terms with it. But, there's the beauty about the LGBTQ community is there's an umbrella of things that you can fall under. And because
the plus is.
Exactly. Hence the pluses. We're called a mafia for a reason. But there's an umbrella of things you can fall under, and one of that is non-binary. And I'm still learning about a lot of these, so don't necessarily take my word for it. Google is free. But non-binary is just pretty much when you don't necessarily care about social constructs. You don't necessarily care about, this is for men, this is for women. Because the way I dress, if you follow me on Instagram, if you know me, I don't necessarily care about what I wear, which my birthday coming up, the birthday pictures, you will see why even more. November 28th. But I don't really care about what I wear, because when I wake up, I just decide, do I want to dress more like quote unquote masculine? Do I want to dress more quote unquote feminine? I just really just wear whatever I want to wear. That's a scope. That's a little explanation, I guess, of what being non-binary is. Now there is at first I thought I was androgynous, which androgynous is when you're a guy or a girl kind of expressing, and you're expressed as the other gender. At first I thought it was that, but for me it's a little deeper. Than I thought I was gender fluid, which gender fluid is similar to non-binary, but it has more of a limitations. But non-binary is just the big term, and then the androgyny and the gender fluid are kind of sub-terms of that big terms. They all kind of fall under the umbrella of non-binary.
Well, have you dated someone in the past before?
Dating, that's what we're talking about. Yeah. Dated? No.
Okay, let's. So this, see, now you see why I was TMI, right? Yeah. Okay.
No, so that's not TMI. Trust me, the mental health stuff is worse. But
the reason why I was asking, right, is because to me it's kind of as a heterosexual male, we sort of have our preferences, and just questioning really is well, how do you find what attracts you? Is it I'm assuming you approach it like any other relationship, right? What sorts of preferences do you look for? Does everyone within the community look for different? I'm assuming everyone looks for different preferences, but as far as what fits with you and things of that nature, how do you have those conversations for what you're looking for? How do you meet people? How do you go out of your element and just say, hey, this is what I'm doing. I want to meet somebody. I actually want to be in a relationship with someone. How do you go out and you do that?
I mean, for people in my community, it's, I want to say easier in the terms like we have a lot of apps for it, but because of those apps, it's kind of like degraded us from being human beings to just being, pictures, because there are certain apps for, relationships, or certain apps for just pure hookups, and the hookup apps, or the hookup culture we like to call it, it's very, very toxic in the community, because you don't even know the person's name. You don't know anything. All you know is that Big Titty 98 posted a picture. Literally yesterday, there's someone called Ass Digger 98, or like some number that DM'd me, and I was just like, anyways. But that's what it's succumbed to, and it's really sad about the hookup culture. But as for preferences, we don't necessarily like using that word in the community, because it's been so, the stigma that's attached to that word is not the most healthiest. It's more prejudicial, if anything. But as
like
for
you discussed
me,
earlier,
yeah. But as for me, with the DMs and dating open, I am a hopeless romantic, but with my own personal growth and the hectic hours of work that I've been working, and me just trying to figure out what I want in my life, because I want to be established first before I necessarily think about, who's going to be on my arm. Though I would like that, I really do like that. But to me, I've realized that that's not under my control. If the universe wants someone to be in my life, they will come. Until then, I need to do what I need to do to get where I need to get at. But it doesn't mean, and by doing that, I've realized lately that a lot of my time is spending kind of on building myself, and by doing that, I've kind of put my love life on the back burner. And it's sad, but it's just like, I just don't have time. And I would, if someone approaches me, I won't deny them, but I'm not necessarily going out of my way anymore to look for that.
Okay. Just makes sense. We now live in an era where people can sometimes feel desensitized or not understand the sensitivity of some of the conversations and the topics that we have. What are some negative terms, connotations, or things associated with the LGBTQ plus community? For example, let me give. I think that recently I learned that even within the community themselves, right, there's a little bit of, like you mentioned, prejudice, right? For example, I think I'm not sure. Some people will say being flamboyant is over the top. Well, one, what is that considered negative? And like, if I was to say, I don't think you're. Let's be clear, right? There's a difference between someone who I believe is quote unquote overly flamboyant. They might switch their hips, they might talk a little feminine, they may dress a certain way, wear mascara, makeup, things like that, which is sometimes comfortable. I've learned to accept those things because I move with society, and these were things that you have to kind of grow and adapt to.
Evolution. Yeah.
Right. But sometimes being called flamboyant just gives a negative connotation. Like, what are some of those similar terms and other things that people should be aware of to make sure that they're doing the right things and not offending members of the LGBTQ plus community? See, I'm tripping on my letters. I'm tripping.
No, you're good. It's a mouthful. Wait till you learn about LGBTQIA plus.
So, time out. I was about to catch myself with another one. Like, even saying pause, right? Like, some people might be offended by that. So,
pause?
Like, for example, you said, let's be clear, rehashing, LGBTQ plus, it's a mouthful.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it really is a mouthful.
So, yeah.
No, you're
I don't
good.
think you caught that.
I don't think I did.
But yes, share.
Before I answer your question, and to kind of explain some more about the whole flamboyance, is there's a difference between gender identity and gender expression, or just expression purely. Right. Because we're moving into a day and age which I like to see that men, especially heterosexual men, are blurring the lines of what's, traditionally, or like what patriarchy has it as a woman is supposed to do. Like, I've been seeing a lot of guys, paint their nails lately, which it doesn't sit right with me and my homegirls that the straights will do it, but when the gays do it, we get hate crime. But when the straights do it, it's like they get applauses. But anyway, I digress. But we're moving into that age where, guys in general just paint their nails, or there's this huge trend over the summer of guys wearing pearl necklaces. And, I like to say that that's just purely expression. That has nothing to do with, their gender. There's actually this Italian androgynous, artist that I follow. And, he wears makeup, he wears, black lipstick, he does, his eyeshadow. But he has a whole ass girlfriend. That doesn't impede, his sexuality. It's an expression.
Right.
As for, people asking some of the gays to turn it down, I would say that's kind of your internalized homophobia showing, sis. And you need to fix that. But
have you been ever told to turn it down?
Several times.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. But I've kind of grown and developed this shield, I guess I would say, that when someone tells me to tone it down, they're pretty much telling me to, repress who I am, and that's just not something I will do for anyone and everyone, for anyone in general, which is something that I realized about myself, which is also why I've kind of put dating on the back burner a little bit, because it's I need to be comfortable with myself, set boundaries in my life, so I don't get into a relationship and change and cross those boundaries. But yeah, gender expression, gender sexuality, or sexuality in general, 3 different entities. Back to the question about the hate terms and stuff like that. I don't really recall a lot off the top of my head, because I've kind of also try to build positivity around me. So words that have negative connotations, I try not to remember them as much. But it's funny enough, earlier today I was talking to one of my really, really good friends, Andrea. There's this movie coming out on Netflix. I don't even know what it's called, but it's coming out this December or something like that. But it's a rom-com, or just a romantic movie. It's a very overplayed trope in Hollywood, where it's from friends to lovers, the classic Hallmark movies, where it's oh, these 2 people go to back to their hometown for the holidays and they end up falling in love with each other.
Oh, yeah.
It's girl, we've been there, done that, can we move on? But when it comes to the gays, we get an exception, because we don't get a lot of representation, if at all, any. So when we get something like that, it's quite a big deal. But we were talking about that, and one of the things Andrea said that I agreed with her upon is that there's a lot of stigmas in Hollywood, in gay Hollywood, in how gays are portrayed in Hollywood media. For example, Call Me By Your Name. The gays will hate me for saying this, but I love that movie. One of my favorite movies of all time. But the problematic thing about that movie is the age gap, because one of the guys, I think he's in his 30s, pushing 40 or something like that. Then the guy that he's seeing, he's underaged. So a lot of the heterosexual community, or at least not a lot of, some people in the heterosexual community, at least, especially the religious one, piggyback on the fact that, well, not the fact, piggyback on the ideology that they think that gay people are very prejudicial. Gay people like to seek younger people. Meanwhile, sis, we're not all R. Kellys over here. Well, not a lot of us. And that's just very stereotypical. Hashtag sorry.
Don't out some people, please. We've had some outings. Some names have been dropped recently, but we don't want to drop any more names.
All right.
Not at least today.
All right. I'll keep that for the rest. Okay. But yeah, 1, we're not prejudicial. 2, we don't really seek out to change everyone, though that's something that a lot of people think we are. Because majority of the time, we're literally just living our lives in peace. If you come at us sideways, that's when we come out the crack of your ass and show you what you're made of. It's just, we're not really out there to get you. We're not out there to get your husbands. Honestly, it's kind of the other way around, that your husbands are out to get us, but that's besides the point.
Oh, we're going to get to that.
Yeah, that's besides the point. There's a lot of other terms that I just can't quite remember, but throughout the conversation, I was just spill it out.
No, it's interesting because, sometimes, I work in D.C., and D.C. is a hub of one of the LGBTQ plus hubs, I would say, in the United States. They have a large population in this area, a very large population. So I tend to come across work, especially now, the work I do, the head of the HR is a part of that community. So you see a lot of reflection and, I guess, representation coming into my workforce. With that being said, sometimes, I might be in a casual conversation and I might say something that I might think in my own mind is homosexual activity, but I'm not saying it to be offensive. I'm saying it because my mind has been conditioned, to say a lot of these offensive comments, and it takes some time to get that untraining. So I know words like I've never used the word damn. I don't think I've ever used it ever. I think that's obviously yes.
Probably just like say the F word.
Yeah. Then there's like there's dykes. There's that's it. Yeah, like these are terms that as a heterosexual male come across every day, even in casual conversation, and don't think anything of it. But you don't know who you're offending when you're saying these comments. So it's one thing to make sure that we're learning and we're understanding, and even casual conversation, to be mindful of what you're saying and learning from those experiences. Another question. So
wait, to add on to that, I'm not going to necessarily penalize you on that, because I also feel like we're getting into a day of age where it's everyone, there's like this ongoing thing on Twitter where it's like they say everyone's becoming sensitive. People are not becoming sensitive. People are just becoming more educated. There's a difference. And people are becoming less ignorant. There's a difference. There's a difference between ignorance and there's a difference between being educated and being respectful. It's not going to happen overnight, I can tell you that, because it never happened overnight for me, because there's a lot of things, like you said, that you have to untrain your mind, because how we were brought up is like our perceptions has been ingrained in us. So we never really had a chance to think for ourselves. It's like now when we're all, learning to think for ourselves. Like, for example, I hope he doesn't mind me saying this, but Danj, when we went to Agneline's birthday, I think it was last year, for her in NOLA, we're all drinking, and then he said something about someone being fruity, but then he turned around to me and he asked me, he was like, hey, is that an offensive term? And I told him, I was like, yes, it is an offensive term in the community, but for me personally, because I know him, he's my cousin, I'm cool, I know his intentions. If he says that about me, I don't mind, because I know who he is, and I know what he's capable of and what he's not capable of. I know that he did not mean it in an offensive way, and I told him that for me it's not offensive, but just be very cautious not to say it in public or to say it to people, because you never know who may be around and who may take that as an offensive term. Just kind of like, sorry to cut you off, but just kind of like the F word. To me, I equate the F word, not fully, but I kind of equate it to be, the N word, where now in our day and age, Black people have reclaimed that word, just like gay people have reclaimed that word. My ex-best friend and I, we used to call each other the F words like every single day. It doesn't hold anything, it's not a derogatory term. It's just something that we've, reclaimed, and we just call each other that, but no one else can do that.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, just stay away from it.
Yeah, it's for those within the community. If you're Black, you say the F word. No, the N word. If you're gay, you say the F word. But I say both because I'm both.
In a sense, it's almost like, even though that you might feel that way, like I said, you know us, you know who we are, and even though our character, and we're not saying these terms, it's almost, I don't want to say it's like you're encouraging it, but sometimes it could give us that false sense of entitlement to say like, okay, I've said it, even though Lambris might not find it offensive, I might say it again just because I said it around you. So do you feel like that takes away from the progress that I guess the community is trying to make from getting away from it? I mean, I want to say really only encouraging it within your family, because I know if you were away from your family, you wouldn't.
Oh, I would check a bitch real quick. Sorry.
I'm sorry?
No, I said I would check a bitch real quick. I said that. I'm sorry. No.
Yeah.
But I do understand what you mean. That's why I kind of always give the person the disclaimer that, hey, I don't encourage them to say the word, but I'm like, try to not incorporate that word in your vernacular as much. But if you say it around me, just know that I'm not taking it in any negative connotations, but just don't say it, around, a public space, or just don't say it in a very not so like, home area, because, the gays can fight. I'm not saying that I can fight. I have my lawyers for that, and I have my cheekbones to preserve, so I do not fight. You will never catch me in a fight. I can run. I ran cross country, I ran track. I'll outrun you any day. but you will never catch me fighting. That's just very barbaric to me. And like Megan Thee Stallion said, if you fight, you don't care about yourself. Period.
We're gonna wrap up in a little bit, but a couple more questions. What other issues internally within the LGBTQ plus community is there a divide on? You know, there may be some things that we're not privy to that maybe you want to share.
Child, where do I begin? Let me scratch my head for this. Let's start off with the racial prejudice or injustice. I would say you white. I almost had the F word. It just be slipping out. But you white gays, you're not at the top of the pyramid. This is an open letter to any white gays watching. You're not at the top of the pyramid, sweetie. The one thing that a lot of the people don't know about the LGBTQ community is like our entire community has been where we are today because of transgender women, specifically black transgender women. Women who till today are literally being shot by black people in the community, which it's like, how are you hating on your own kind, black people? How are you out there literally shooting, literally raping, literally dehumanizing a fellow black woman? How are you going to, this may be a little controversial and I hate to say it, but it's been a conversation we've black gay people have had is, how are you going to scream Black Lives Matter? How are you going to say, you know, protect the black men? But you will literally turn around and dehumanize black transgender women. You will literally turn around in the same breath and villainize black transgender women. Like, make it make sense. Anyways, that's subtext of part one. Back to the white gays. I ain't forget about y'all. The whole like kind of taking African American vernacular and incorporating that in your own lingo. Don't do that. They do that a lot. It's not cute. Don't do that. What else can I also?
That's no. Thank you for bringing it up. I actually, you made me think about that. Yeah, because like I mentioned earlier in my workforce, I know I'm from DC, you know, but it's almost like, yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
It's so to speak, when white males who identify as gay, when they've officially come out, they seem to adopt black women. I'm trying to find the right word, but I guess vernacular, hand motions, communication. It's almost like they're mimicking, and it can sometimes come off as
like a character. Yeah, and I don't like that, and I just kind of feel like it's, to me personally, it just has some racial undertones to it. It really, really does. It doesn't say what I was thinking, my homegirls. Please stop it. Number two, the body, just the body chow in general. I get, you know, everyone in the world has, the way the media has ingrained us, the thing is like, oh, skinnier is better, whatever. Vogue says thinner is better, as Beyonce said. But in the gay community, it's a lot worse. It's like 100 times magnified that, because in the gay community, if you almost don't exist if you're not slim or if you're not toned or if you don't look like a twink, which a twink is someone who looks like that, by the way. Little gay terminology for you.
It's a lot.
But yeah, you're very much just like scrutinized every single time for how you look in the gay community. Like, just let's say the dating apps, specifically the hookup ones like Grindr, where you literally only see like guys will literally just post like half of their, you know, chest, or like their V-line, or post like their bulge, or post like their ass, and generally you're judging off of what someone's body looks like. You're not, and by judging off of what someone's body looks like, you're kind of like creating this very like unhealthy space that you have to look a certain way to seem quote unquote appealing to another person. And I think we really, really need to destructuralize that, because by doing into that, we're also kind of giving into what the term is, heteropatriarchy, where it's like, oh, a guy's supposed to look like this, he's supposed to go to the gym 6 times a week, he's supposed to. No, that's one of the things I like about my community, is because we're spending each and every single day trying to untrain our minds the way the heteropatriarchy has tried to train us to believe.
Gotcha. Last question. What suggestions would you give to the African community about being more open-minded?
Um,
You know, because this is an adjustment. At the end of the day, this is considered taboo, you know, within our own community. And even though we live in the diaspora where it's more widely accepted, even going back home and even to that older generation of African parents, they may not still understand it, may not ever understand. So, like I said, what sorts of suggestions would you give to help, you know, our community outside of your other community be more open-minded about that community?
to answer your question with a question, then follow up with an answer. Why is it considered taboo?
We never. That's answer before my time, but I think, it
Is it
has
before
strongly.
your time, or were you just not educated on what happened before your time?
Probably both. But what I will say is that I think I could be 1,000% wrong. Is that it's closely related to religion and
No, it is
it's
100%
in culture.
related to religion.
So I think that's where a lot of the stigma or the bad stigma comes from. Is that it's been handed down over generations and generations and generations. Within, you know, through the Bible, starting with the Bible, of course, and then having people reinforce that, you know, that those traumatic events. So I think it's something that's been culturally happening for centuries.
Decades, most centuries, yeah. But I do see where you're coming from, and I did too believe that at one point, and that's one of the things that I had to untrain myself, and that's also one of the things that I wish there was someone that I could look up to, or someone that could help me through this journey, and so I don't have to walk through it alone. Like, how come I'm not being taught about my own gay ancestors in school? This is my history, who I am, and the people that came before me is something that I'm either having to learn through media outlets like TikToks, or I'm having to do my own research about it constantly, or I'm having to read books about it. Why am I having to go 10,000 miles extra to find out about my predecessors when you guys, we learn about you guys' counterparts in school all the time? Speaking of you guys' counterparts, the British, the Bible was translated by the British. Was translated, what's that stupid British Empire or whatever? Not the British Empire, but the British Church. It was translated by them. They had their own agenda because they personally viewed homosexuality as a sin. But the text in which they transcribed in English was that the original text stated that a man shall not lie with a younger man, which is pretty much just saying you're not going to be a predator, plain and simple. You know, you're not going to be, sorry to say, but you're not going to be an R. Kelly. You're just not.
I mean, he's convicted, so you can very much say.
Okay.
You can very
good.
much say that.
You're not going to be an R. Kelly.
Yeah.
Like, just don't be lying with, you know, younger men in general. But the British, they transcribe that as, you know, a man shall not lie with another man. Even if a man shall not lie with another man. In the Bible, in the same breath, it also says that if a woman is on her period, you're not supposed to be in the same house with her. Yeah, y'all still be in the same house.
Eat shrimp.
Yeah, y'all still be calling up for appointments when she's on her period. And
Stop.
Listen,
Stop.
if you feel like you're on the hot seat, I'm not calling names.
I'm not in the hot seat.
Okay, good. Because, like, if anyone feels that way, that's on them. But upon doing my own research and upon, you know, looking things up, I have actually found out that there are traces of gay people stems all the way back to the BC. All the way back
Sodom
then.
and Gomorrah.
There were a lot of, like, gay, I personally focus on this because I like royalty, but there were a lot of gay royalties in Africa, in Egypt. Even now, there are, like, a lot of gay royalties in India. And it's rumored that one of the presidents was gay, or at least bisexual. And if I'm not wrong, that's Abraham Lincoln, because tell me if this sounds straight, and I'm not trying to stigmatize or, like, trying to create a stereotype on what.
Not the 5, not Abe.
Because it was said that, I don't know if it's him, but one of the presidents shared a bed with one of his close friends for 7 years. And when that close friend moved out or went somewhere else, they messaged each other constantly. Tell me that doesn't seem a little bit.
I don't know. I text a lot of my guys. They don't sleep in my bed, but I send
But
a lot.
I
I
mean-
send texts to Flex all the time. You know what I'm saying? Me and Flex have never even shared a room. But
For 7 years, it seems a little fishy to me. But what I would really just say about this stigma is just something that I have had to do is like untrain your mind. Literally, don't necessarily focus about what the media is telling you. Actually sit and talk to yourself. You're like, okay, why do I have these thoughts? Are these my original ideas, or are these ideas that have been ingrained in me when I was little? Because that's one of the reasons that some of the my people are so scared to come out, is because who we are is going against the grain. Who we are, society has told us we cannot be those people. So when we kind of somewhat accept it, it's very, very hard to own up to it, because we're like, oh my goodness, society has said you can't be this, but I really want to be this because it's who I am. But society keeps telling you, no, you can't do that, no, you can't do that. Why is society telling you that? You need to just keep asking those why questions, because it's with those why questions that you will help untrain your mind. It's with those why questions that will open your mind up to really just like soaking in more information.
one last question. I think this past week, well, before I even get into that, I will say that lately there's been a trend of more and more people being open and coming out and sharing their experiences. But with that, I think that sometimes people can use that as an quote unquote an advantage, or sort of as a fad, to kind of go with the trend of what's quote unquote trendy. Not saying that
Gay
something
baiting.
trendy. Someone like Joe Budden, for example, that states that he's gay. Even though it was a clip and I think it was out of context. Someone like that just comes out and says, I don't know if he said he was gay or bisexual or whatever the case may have been. But do you all feel offended when someone is sort of like mimicking that?
Very much so, because there's like two categories I can rank that under. Like one you said, which is more like political, which is, well, both categories you're profiting off of us. But in the context of what you're saying is, it's just not fair in the terms of like you're creating this false illusion that you're with us. Meanwhile, you're just doing it to get to where you want to get to. Again, capitalism, hate that bitch, but I'm not saying it is what it is, but we can spend every waking day trying to dismantle that. But also in the other category, that at least with my age group, especially especially on TikTok, well, TikTok, OnlyFans, Twitter, there's been a tremendous surge of gay baiting, which is you have these content creators like these sexually explicit content
Y'all got
creators.
terms on gay baiting. Terms on terms.
Sweet. There's gay baiting. There's gay coding. There's gay coding is another one too.
Oh my gosh.
And gay coding is actually something I learned about a year ago. It's like in film, when they'll have these, they call it now bromance. When they'll have these two characters, which the writers, they're intentionally doing that. They're pushing these two like male characters or two female characters together to create this sexual tension, but nothing ever ends up like resolving within them. It's not it's not unintentional. It's very well intentional, and it's very meticulous.
Like that episode on Black Mirror.
Actually, I have not watched Black Mirror. Sorry to say. Well, I've watched one episode, but it was about
it sounds similar.
no, I literally only watched it because it was gay. Because I actually spoke with Clement about this. I don't necessarily consume content anymore that's not gay related, because it doesn't necessarily progress my own thought perception. It doesn't progress me where I need to get to in life. But anyways, the gay baiting, especially now with OnlyFans and TikTokers, is you have these male creators who are, for example, painting their nails, or like wearing pearl necklaces, who are creating these sexually explicit content, that are targeted towards gays, but they're not gay. They're only doing it because it profits them, like they get a monetary benefit from it. They'll tweet stuff like, TMI. They'll tweet stuff like a half naked picture of them, and they're like, retweet if you would let me breed you, or like retweet if you would let me bottom for you.
Wow.
And things of that nature. It's like, you're sick in the head, for starters. Seek some mental health, which is an advice I give all my gay friends, and I give myself too. But it's just, things that we're also battling within our community. And one thing that I would also want to say on that topic is, no matter how hard you think it is for you as heterosexuals to accept this, for one, a lot of us at this point says we don't even want acceptance. We want respect. You don't have to accept this, but you will respect this. But one thing I would like to say is, if you think it's hard enough for you to accept it, just, to me, again, like I said earlier, it's selfish. Imagine what we're going through personally. Then you come into our community, then you have all these like different battles that we're facing within our community. You have the racial injustices, you have all these unfairness in our community. It's like we have to deal with our community, then we have to deal with the outside world. It's like a never ending battle. So I just say be very mindful, be very understanding, be very loving to your, gay friend, and not calling anyone out, but just be mindful of your verbatim, or like be mindful of your vernacular and how you speak, because I have people who talk to me, and you never know who is going through what. You never know if it's a mental issue, which I don't know why we didn't get into that, because that's a whole nother topic either way.
Yeah, no, we'll definitely. I think there's so much surrounding this conversation that there definitely has to be another part two.
Oh, definitely.
I know we're kind of constrained for time, and there's a lot of things going on, but me and you will definitely talk. I know I call it that period between the 19th and the 1st of December is a turn-up period, but I think this year is a little different because everyone is going to Dirty December. But there's definitely a lot of conversations that we didn't even touch.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's just really dope, at least for this section or this portion of it, to really hear from you and your experiences and the things that you were able to go through and share, because I know that there's a lot more. You were supposed to have another guest with you today. I actually spoke with her or him. We didn't even get there. See, that's something we could talk about.
And I would have loved for that guest to be here, because though I feel like, I've said quite a lot, there's so many different things about the LGBTQ community. There's so many walks of life that we each individually go through, that my view, as a gay black, which another thing about non-binary, some people don't necessarily call themselves he, she.
Yeah, pronouns.
But,
since you brought it up, let's talk about it.
Oh, okay.
When it comes, so now.
Oh wait. To finish up what I was saying earlier. Sorry.
Facts, I'm sorry.
But I feel like the guest that we could have had, he could have shed more light on, what it's like to be going through. Not to give too much information, because I don't know what they want me to say. Again, it's none of my business. I'm also one of those people where when you tell me something, or even if you don't tell me, I don't go,
in depth.
Yeah, I'm not, if you tell me something, it stays with me. If I tell you something, I don't feel the need to tell you that. Keep your mouth shut.
Yeah.
You don't keep your mouth shut, you might end up in a ditch.
Man, what?
Just saying.
I'm a fan of secrets.
Yeah.
It's between me and you. It's between me and you.
Period. But I feel like he could have, really shed more light on what it's like in his own part of the community, which I hope to see you here next time.
Yeah. No, we definitely talk. We got it planned out. I think I'm gonna say I dropped the ball on that one. I definitely dropped the ball. But there'll be more opportunities, and we'll revisit that conversation. Probably, we'll work it out. But like I said, the last question was really approaching this. Something I've seen recently, actually being implemented damn near everywhere, is these use of pronouns, and I think it's actually interesting and important to have. So, what is the importance of pronouns within the community? And secondly, how did we even get to this stage? Because like I said, I started seeing places like LinkedIn. I don't know. I think Facebook has it. Maybe Instagram might have it. I know that these different outlets have the use of pronouns now where you can be identified as whatever you say you want to be identified as, or however you feel. So what is the importance of that within the community? And honestly, how did we get here? Because it just seemed like it happened overnight.
I will agree with you. It also kind of feel like it happened overnight. But I'd say it was very much needed because as gay people, we've always really been here. We've just been in the shadows. It's just my generation, we've kind of, really decided, well, not my generation, actually my predecessors, which majority of them were killed off due to the AIDS outbursts, which is one of the reasons why I don't necessarily have, or my generation, we don't necessarily have people who could educate us about what it's like to be us and about their previous generations, because half of them were killed off because, the president at the time didn't see what we were going through as a major, illness. But anyways, I digress. Back to where you were saying, the whole pronoun situation, it's one of those things where I don't think you really understand the importance of it until it's you, or until you're going through it, because it's all about, again, it all goes back to what I was saying, was it's all about who you are on the inside, or the things that you do that makes that person, that entity on the inside happy. And if that identity or that entity says, you were born as a guy at birth, but you don't necessarily identify as that, though you may not be transgender, you could be like, I identify as she, her, you have the right to be called that. And it's just, mere respect. Like one of my favorite artists, Sam Smith, wants to be called they, them, and that's what I address Sam Smith as. As for me, I don't necessarily have pronouns yet. It's a little TMI. It's just something that I'm, figuring out as I go, and I'm the type of person that I don't necessarily like putting labels on myself until I am 100% sure. So maybe in a year from now, I'll tell you what my labels are, because being gay, it's like we all just kind of address each other. It's like, he, her, she, like that girl. We don't, feel uncomfortable. Like, for example, I can see one of my gay friends and I'll be like, oh, you're that girl. It doesn't necessarily mean like, you're a girl. It's just, it's an expression. So because of that expression, it's kind of made some of us less stringent to the idea of like, oh, I'm a guy, I'm supposed to, go by he, him. That's why, because of that, it's also, I think, kind of like created a zone, or like created an atmosphere where some people are like, well, you can address me as he, him, she, her, or I would like to be addressed as only she and her, or they and them.
Gotcha.
But it's really just all about respect. It's a lot, and it's a lot, and it took me a while. And you see all this information that I'm giving you. No one was there to tell me. I had to learn on my own. Man, and there's still so much that I have to learn on my own, and it's literally a never-ending process of just learning about me, learning about my community, learning about the people before me. It's just, and we still ain't got nobody to teach us. So imagine that.
Well, maybe you could be the first. We'll see.
We'll see.
But yo, this has really been a really interesting conversation, and I hope that the viewers out there got to learn a lot more, not only about Mr. Lambris and Day. I'm gonna call him Mr. for right now because we don't got no pronouns yet. But for right now, for Lambris and Day, like I said, I learned so much just by even doing the research to ask the right questions and get here. But I do want to thank you for coming onto the platform, sharing your story, sharing your journey. Hopefully our other guest, Pius, will join us.
I thought we were name dropping.
That was my fault. Sorry, Pius. That was my fault.
I thought we were name dropping because all along I just said he.
That was my fault, Pius.
I wasn't specific.
But yo, this has been the Couch Talk on Stuck in the Middle podcast. Shout out to everyone behind the scenes that's involved. Shout out to everyone that we name dropped here. All my nurses, all my anesthesians, all my
the anesthesian who's miserable.
To all my people up in Fred, shout out to y'all. This has been the Couch Talk. Make sure you visit www.sitmpodcast.com to shop your exclusive merch. Shop for her, him, they, them, shop for anyone in the family. Christmas is coming up. Black Friday's coming up. I'm sure we're going to have a promo sale. You know what I mean? This has been fun. Thank you, Lambris, for coming out. Where can the people find you once again?
Before I get to that, I just wanted to give a quick shout out to, first and foremost, the family. Well, the ones, I would like to shout out to Mami Honest, Leonie, the CEO of 1994. I'd like to shout out to Agneline, to Alvin, to Germania, to Danj, to everyone.
What up, Germ?
You guys know who you are. From the bottom of my heart, I will always say this when I'm drunk, not sober, that I really do appreciate the love and the love you guys have given me. I'm the type of person that I don't really ask for anything because anything I want, I can get.
Right.
But love is something that I can't get unless you necessarily give it to me, and people have given me that. You guys have given me that. And I really do appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. And I always tell you guys this, again, when I'm drunk. And I would also like to shout out my really, really good friends who I feel like without my friends or without my cousins, I really will not necessarily be able to just stand or even just being literally alive in this world. And I just want to thank all of you guys. Andrea, the new ones who somehow snuck into my life, and I said I did not want new friends.
Okay, Drake.
Thank you. I really do thank all of you guys. And like he said, you can find me on Instagram, XOXOLammy. That's XOXOLAMMY. Twitter, XOXOLAMMYY, I believe. Snapchat, I don't use Snapchat. It's 2021. Grow up. Sorry.
Wow.
We need to grow up.
And I just started adding more friends on Snapchat.
Oh no, we need to grow up. Snapchat is ghetto. Well, not ghetto, but it's just like we need to let her go. Rest in peace.
Man, that's where all the good videos go. Yo, man. Once again, this has really been a dope conversation. A really good one. Check it out. I hope you all picked up some things for today. Once again, this is the Couch Talk on SitM Podcast, Stuck in the Middle. Make sure you follow and subscribe. Hit that ringer bell for all new notifications. Make sure you leave a comment on this video. Ask questions if there's something I didn't go over that you want to know. If there's something that you want to learn, or if there's a topic that you feel that needs to be had on the Couch Talk, make sure you share and hit that comment button. I'm your host, Sir Charles, aka Capo. Once again, I'm in the building. Shout out to Flex, shout out to Miles, shout out to Achiri, aka Tutu Baby. What's up? And that's Choo Choo. What up? Hey, it's Stuck in the Middle. We out.